I'm up on stage giving my talk at a business event. I used to work with my brother. Here's what we thought before the huge fight. And so you're going to do that thing every week for the next year. Or we could just spend 2 hours working out how you wouldn't have to do that.
We're just a couple of business anchors. Welcome to the Business Anchors podcast. This jingle is slightly too long. This jingle is slightly too long.
Welcome to the Business Anchors podcast, episode 34, the podcast where two business owners talk through the weirder, lesser-known elements of what it takes to build a real business. Today we're opening up about the conflict between us as brothers and business partners. We're discussing how we can make any business conflict a positive experience, and we'll be punching each other to see who would win in a fight.
Oh, we?
No, yeah, I just don't know. Looking back, I don't really know why I wrote that.
Did you just want to punch me?
It was about conflict, and then I don't want to do that because I think your punch will be much harder than mine.
Good. We won't do that then.
Let's not do that last bit. But the other bits, genuine.
We're going to do those.
Yeah, we're going to do those things.
So we're talking about conflict.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be interesting because I think we've had quite a lot of conflict.
I don't think it's going to be interesting. So what are you going to do about it?
I think it's going to be really interesting.
I don't, so.
How are we going to overcome this conflict, Lloyd?
I don't know. I don't know if we can.
You're such an idiot. Conflict, but okay, so conflict. How do you think...
How do you think?
Shut up.
Sorry. Okay.
How do you think conflict has impacted our lives?
Our lives?
Yeah. Or how's conflict been involved throughout our lives?
Well, thankfully, on a wider level, there's not conflict like wars and stuff like some people have to live through. So we're very fortunate there. But conflict on a personal level, I think, within our business, I think it's been really positive overall.
I think it's been negative.
Do you?
No.
Oh. Got me.
I'm joking, sorry.
Got me.
No, I'm going to disagree with stuff you said.
I think it's been really positive overall. However, there was a lot of conflict in the early days, I would say, of our business, which I found hard and we had to learn how to get through. But overall, I think it's been really positive because it's helped us get where we need to get to.
Yeah.
I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Dan.
Well, I think
because you're the other side of these conflicts.
Yeah, I think before the business, when we were younger, we used to have a lot of conflict. I think we used to argue a lot before. But I think before the age of when I was about 12 or something, roughly, you were 14. I think we used to argue all the time.
Yeah. Well, wouldn't you argue if you had a brother that kept a football on a shelf and wouldn't play with you because he didn't want to get it dirty? I mean, wouldn't you argue with someone like that?
And my friends used to come around and they wanted to play with you, not me, and I used to cry upstairs.
Yeah. I wonder why. I'll come around to play with my mate Dan. He won't play with any of his toys because he wants them to look perfect. Whereas Lloyd, he's a right laugh.
Yeah. But we used to argue quite a bit, didn't we? I remember you used to run upstairs and make a slapping sound and try and tell on me that I'd hit you. You did some nasty shit.
You did that to me as well. No, Oh, Dan, no need for that. Oh.
But no, so that was that first part. I think we got to the age of about 12 and we realised, let's actually be friends. I don't know what happened. Something happened and we were just like, oh, let's be mates. And I think I then used to hang out a bit with you and your mates and stuff, and it was go bodyboarding. Remember we went bodyboarding down the beach? That was good.
Yeah, good times.
And I used to just always drown, and you got really worried. Yeah, that was fun. But so in terms of the business, I think obviously we've evolved since then, and we're much more mature now. But still, when we started the business 6-ish years ago, we had a lot more conflict between each other because I think we're complete opposites and we disagree on a lot of things. Yeah. But we've kind of across that journey come to now agree on a lot of stuff, but still.
Why do you think our opinions differ so much, though, on a lot of stuff?
I think our values are completely different. Not completely different, sorry. Our values are similar, but we hold more value on different things. And I don't know.
Yeah, I suppose I agree with that because I think overall, like our
values are aligned. Sorry, they are aligned.
Our values are aligned, but like you said, the value we put on things does differ. Yeah. Some things that I think are really important, I think. I get the vibe from you. You're like, why is he making such a big thing of this? Yeah. And the other way around as well.
Yeah. I also think it's another key thing is that we, over the last 6 years, we literally spend so much time together. You're the human being that I see most in my life. I think if you look at it, aren't we? We spend the most every day.
Yeah.
In the evenings, we talk.
Yeah.
At the weekends, we see each other. Well, pre-COVID, we saw each other, hang out with each other.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of time to spend with another human being, no matter if they're family, friend, or whatever. That puts quite a lot of pressure on. But I think now I feel we've got to a stage where conflict is quite low compared to that. But I wonder why that is.
Yeah, I think over time we've managed to learn to deal with it and make it very positive, because I remember back in the day when we started the business in our old office in the spare bedroom when we're starting out, I remember regularly feeling really negative about conversations and this was when Dad was more involved as well, far more heavily involved in helping us make decisions within the business and stuff. And because you and Dad are more similar, I quite often felt like I was up against you two. And I remember getting to the point of regularly of just wanting to walk out of the office and not be anywhere near you, and thinking this is so shit working with it, like I can't deal with this.
This is horrible to hear.
No, but I just want to be honest, like, and this wasn't, it's not like, oh, for the first 3 years I felt like that, but it was times throughout that where I had like a day or two where I was like, this is, and I do feel sorry for Ida, who still works with us now, because she was the only one of our team that experienced working in that tiny office, and I think experienced more of that conflict compared to anyone else. Yeah. And it was probably very awkward for her, because we would have this thing like, you're shit, and they would just go silent, and he just kind of sat there working on her computer, probably thinking, I work for a weird business.
Yeah, and then there's Mum hoovering in the hallway.
But I think the difference... So firstly, I still think that conflict was positive.
Because it helped us get to where we are now.
Yeah, I think both sides had their opinions, and it helped us get to the best point each time. So you're at point A, I'm at point B, and... There's a line. It's like, well, who's right or wrong? Is there somewhere in the middle? And it helped us get to the best point most of the time. I think what's changed is it used to take days, weeks, or months to get to that point.
Whereas now
it usually takes minutes to get to that point. I think that's what's really helped the conflict us develop that conflict into something hugely positive. Like I said, it used to be a couple of months later, we spoke about this. Yeah, I suppose you're right. Now it's minutes of, I think this. We know that we value both sides.
Yes. I think that's the key thing. I think now we totally value that if I've got an opinion on something to the business that's complete opposite to yours, and then you say, well, I think the complete opposite, here's what I think. I will then sit and I completely trust and value oh, Lloyd thinks something different, let's hear about it. Whereas then I would have had my emotional hat on of, why do you think that I'm wrong?
Yeah.
Whereas, I think it's weird. It's just, it's time of going through those situations to get to being able to...
I think with any conflict, this is going to be the best thing I say in this podcast, I reckon, guys. So just pay attention now. I think in any conflict, whether it's personal life or business, I think to get the most out of it, if you can completely let go of any feeling that your opinion is the right one, then you get the most out of it, because you go into it thinking, I think this, these other people think these different things. If you're just thinking what I think is the right thing, you're fighting against these people but not necessarily getting to the best place. Whereas if you think, I currently think this, they currently think that, it's not that I'm right and they're wrong, but these are all opinions that could be the best thing to go with.
I think that alone is so powerful.
Thank you. Yeah, I really feel powerful after saying it.
Having an open mind to other people's opinions. I think just to actioning that alone. But it's easier said than done, though, because I think everyone's got their ego and everyone, doesn't want to... other people to think that they're not very good and their opinions aren't great and what they think isn't good. So how do you action that? Well,
I think first you just got to make yourself do it. In my experience is first make yourself do it.
So literally, if I was
and you'll
here
just be thinking in your head, you'll be thinking, well, I definitely think I'm right. But in this conversation,
Yeah.
I'm going to be trying to value everything I hear just as much as what my own brain's telling me.
Yeah.
And then the more you do it, you realise you come out with a better ending, and then you just train yourself to be like, oh yeah, this makes sense.
From looking at our discussions, how it actually goes, it's kind of like you say your piece and your logical approach to why you think that. Then the other person sort of takes that, what you've said, says their opinion and has their logical approach. And now what we do is we both tap into those logical elements of our opinions, and then it forms like you said that's the right thing to do, but what about X, Y, Z? And then it comes to a better... It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. And we had a conversation about this podcast recently that I think really showed it. So just so you know, listeners, we both really enjoy recording these podcasts, so thanks for listening. But I was saying today, when we were having a discussion about the business value of like, this takes up a certain amount of our time and our team's time. Is this the best thing we can be doing with our time? Should we be doing other things? So I was coming at it from a point of more over the end of... I think we should really question if this is the right thing to do. And Dan basically straight away said 100%. Well, no, he didn't say 100% think it's the right. But he said, I definitely think it's the right thing to do. That's the same as 100%. So, and we discussed things, and Dan told me new bits of information that backed up why he thought that I wasn't aware of and things. And by the end of it, I was completely happy going, yeah, we should definitely keep doing this.
But even though you agreed in the end, you bringing that up has actually made us think more deeply about the strategic direction of this podcast, and it's made us it's going to make us improve the podcast because of how we're shaping the topics we talk about and the structure and that kind of thing. So I think it's crucial to constantly question everything like you do. That's why it's these opposite opinions work. Because if you just agreed the podcast was great, we wouldn't have had that discussion. We wouldn't have thought, how can we make sure this is in the right strategic direction, and made those small changes that we're going to be making. So
I think what's good now as our team grows as well is I wouldn't really, I suppose I wouldn't describe it as conflict, but the difference of opinions. As you bring more people in with their own skills and experience, rather than it used to be a discussion between the two of us, sometimes now we've got a discussion between 6 people with differing opinions
it helps,
on stuff.
Yeah.
And I think as long as you're bringing people together that can take on board other people's opinions and are willing to think what they think and give their opinion into the melting pot to add to the discussion, but willing to accept that they're not always going to be the right one, I think it's positive.
I think it's challenging though when you've done something a certain way throughout your whole life, and it's worked to an extent. You know, I've done this before, and I've been doing something, and you've questioned it. And I've sort of been like, well, it's done it this way all the time. But then you question it has made me think, oh, actually, wait, is there a different way? Have things changed? Should I be changing the way I'm doing things? So I think you should, even if things are going in the right direction, having someone or even yourself to constantly question, this is doing well, but could it be doing better?
Yeah.
Is another
and sometimes it takes a long time to get there. Like I've been constantly questioning Dan's choice of dyeing his hair and putting highlights in it for years.
I'm still doing it.
It's still doing it. So it doesn't always happen quickly that you get to the right decision. Sometimes it can take months,
You've still
years,
got that tash on your lip, mate.
And eventually Dan will go, oh, I'm so glad we had these discussions over the years. Now I realise what a terrible choice
I know
I
you're
made.
taking the piss, but that actually holds an actual valuable point. Because, but you said Dad and I are very similar. There's certain things in the business that for like a year you've been saying, and then after a year, Dad and I are actually like, oh, we should do this thing, and you're like, I've literally been saying that for a year. Yeah. So it's
one I've learned to work with Dan and Dad. So if I had an opinion that was different to theirs, I could just gradually over time tell them that it was their idea, and then they'd be like, yeah, I've got this idea. So that helps.
How do you, in terms of conflict, how, we're talking like conflict's great for us. It's really good having conflict. What about, how do you know when there's too much conflict? Like, because conflict, if we were like, the level of conflict between us was we were constantly at each other's throats, just screaming at each other, I don't think that would be beneficial to the business or our lives. I know it's an extreme example, but how do you know if it's doing good or bad? I
think if anyone involved isn't at a point where there's any sign of them giving up on thinking their own opinion is the best, then I think that's when it's not going to work. Like if your personality or my personality was just one of those that was like, we can see we've been at this for a couple of years. I
completely disagree with everything still.
he never whatever information you put in front of him, he never changes his opinion or accepts anyone else's. I think that's a sign that
nothing's going to change.
Nothing's going to change. I think if you're like, actually, yeah, we used to really struggle to compromise or to get to a point where we could not do just what us as individuals thought. But now we're getting better at that. I think that's a good sign. But I do wonder, because when we used to meet people pre-COVID, used to be a lot of conversation of the kind of working with family. God, how's that going?
That's so
because
true.
So many, and a lot of people as well. I've spoken to. I used to work with my brother or my sister.
Now we hate each other,
and it just didn't work out. So we stopped that. Or how do you think we are making it work when so many people find that something that doesn't work?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I think we get on so well, and I think we both care about each other and want each other to be happy so much that we know that the greater good isn't to hold on to our view and think, oh no, we should do it this way. I think it's the fact we have opened up that opinion. But I think it's difficult because I certainly spoke to loads of people that say that, how do you get on with each other and stuff? But and I'd like to think that in the future, even if we change as people, which I'm sure we will in some ways, we still hold those values and still try and come to a decision that's for the greater good.
Yeah, I think so.
But who knows? But hopefully we...
Yeah, imagine a flashback to this. I'm up on stage giving my talk at a business event. I used to work with my brother. Here's what we thought before the huge fight.
Yeah.
And obviously Dan just being a ditch somewhere because he would have been a failure without me.
Thanks, mate.
No, it would definitely be the opposite.
What practical steps, if someone's listening and thinking, okay, it sounds like a good thing to have some level of conflict in your business or in your work or whatever, what practically could someone do to try and bring it, if they feel like, I don't really have any conflict, everything just happens and don't really question it? Is there anything you think they could do to actually...
I think if you're working with business or leading a business with someone where you constantly agree...
that's worrying.
I do think it's worrying because, like I said now, how sometimes we have 6 people's opinions and experience and skills into the pot, and that helps us get to a really good place. If you're agreeing all the time, you're basically just having one opinion, which I think is always going to be harder to, unless the 2 or 3 of you are just absolute geniuses, and you always, which is fair play. I mean, we're definitely not.
Yeah.
But I would say if you genuinely don't have the opposing opinion, I think try and use critical thinking. So basically almost play devil's advocate with yourself. I think create conflict in your own mind. I go through this constantly, but that's my own battle of basically saying, I think A. Other people think B a lot. Why would they think that? And then discuss kind of why would that be a better option? And still a lot of the time you might be like, nah. But sometimes that discussion might help, I guess.
You do this so well. I've constantly tried to learn from the way you question things. I know we've spoken about it before, but I think I fall back into that thing of just doing things, and then you're constantly that person on your shoulder saying, why are we doing that? Why are we working in an office? Why are we got drinks in the fridge? Why isn't there something different? Why are we doing a podcast? Why aren't we...
I think with that, it's a weird combination of wanting to improve and my inherent laziness, which is weird. I genuinely think this. I'm always wanting to get like the most out of anything we do. And I do think I'm naturally a lazier person, so I want to get a lot out of stuff for doing the least amount of effort, like being really efficient, basically, with time and everything.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm thinking either I could work another 8 hours a week, or we could just keep making improvements to make sure that we can be really efficient and get the most out of everything we're doing.
I don't think it's laziness, though. I think it's valuing time and other things and wanting time to do those other things, so that your life isn't just your work.
Maybe. No, I genuinely think it's laziness.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm a shit person.
Oh, interesting.
Great. That was an interesting chat about conflict. And okay, I'm going to ask you one question before we start finishing. Terrible English. Has there been any times, like while growing the business, when we've had some kind of conflict that you have felt really negative towards me?
Oh, that's a good question.
You know, have you been thinking, oh, it's just so rubbish working with him at the moment because he's doing this and this, or it's like, oh, you go back home to your wife and go, oh, Lloyd has been such an idiot today.
I think there's been periods years ago where I potentially didn't think you were pulling your weight.
Oh,
but
glad I asked this question.
And that's being honest. But I think short periods that obviously we never really mentioned or discussed because it got past that.
Oh, interesting.
Look at you!
Okay.
You wish you never asked that though.
I think we've got a whole new episode of things to talk about. Wasn't pulling my weight. No. I think we've found that conflict that's going to end the business, guys.
No,
that's interesting.
And I'm honestly saying that was years ago.
Yeah.
And I think it was when the way I looked at things wasn't the way I should be looking at things anyway. So I wouldn't say it was. It was just as much my perception of what I thought was important to do with what your actions were.
Interesting. Yeah, I think you were much more at the point of if I just work hard and do more hours, this would be a good thing. Yeah. And I was even more on the end of, you know, like I just said, of my thing of I want to work in an efficient way, and but also that laziness thing. So we were very much.
It's so good that I eventually listened to you when you said, like, you know, me just working an extra 5 hours in an evening isn't as good as actually like getting the most out of our team and delegating stuff. Yeah. That was around that kind of time where I'm like, no, I've got
to do this until 12. It's like, and so you're going to do that thing every week for the next year, or we could just spend 2 hours working out how you wouldn't have to do that.
Yeah, but it's stupid even thinking about it now. But this is again how we've come to better decisions because of conflict. So
yeah, interesting. Right, we'll talk later about that then. So, I think we need to address that. Cool. I think
that was a really good conversation. I like that.
We've enjoyed that, listeners. So I hope you've enjoyed that as well. And I hope now, whether you have a lot of conflict going on within your business and your life, and it may be that will have helped you try and get to a more positive place from it, or you don't have any conflict and you're going to actually seek it out. Hopefully that's helped, and I think it's been good therapy for me and Dan.
Yeah.
So next therapy session might be on that period of time where Dan thought I was shit.
I did not.
So yeah, thank you for listening, guys. As always, tell your mates and your colleagues about us if you've enjoyed this or got anything out from it. Oh God,
you just can't speak.
Just don't tell them how I try and talk and can't. But other than that,
see you next week.
Yeah. See you next week.